Welcome back to us. It's been a minute. The 40 Black and Dad podcast about being dads and getting through being a dad and being a parent and living life. And I know starting it at 40, which is kind of becoming more and more common.
Yeah, but it's hard.
Um, Definitely hard, presents unique challenges, but we've been busy. It's a busy, or maybe busy is not the right word, or chaotic
Yeah, I was gonna say
summer.
that life is chaotic. That was literally what I was gonna say. So great choice of words.
But those things happen, and it's just amplified, right? It's amplified when you have a kid, I think,
Yeah,
right?
and they're
Or
growing up so fast, so it's even more chaotic.
or I guess any responsibility, the bigger it is, um, the more anything can throw life into a disarray, in a
Hmm.
sense. If you own a bunch of businesses, like that becomes a big responsibility. You have people on your payroll, and it can seem like things are always happening. If you maybe have a bunch of pets, there's an element of chaos in that. Maybe even more so with pets, of just pure randomness and unpredictability. And then when you have kids, such a big responsibility. Even only have one kid, but so much of life revolves around them. But at the same time, other life happens, and you have to adjust. But you have to
Hmm.
account for the kid and how that affects them. So
Oh yeah, everything you do as a parent is directly or indirectly related to how the kid is is affected. So it's very interesting right now, especially as they're getting older and learning new skills and perceiving more things in the world.
right, right. So yeah, what were the things, a couple things that you have been happening that have been on your mind, or that you wanted to talk about that have been going on
Yeah,
uh in the last oof, two months or so?
yeah, it's been a minute, and that 2 months is literally changed my whole perspective. Like, I mean, like I was telling my wife,
Mm,
like our son is no longer like he's not there's no baby in him left. Like he's a grown person. Like at 3 years old, apparently they become adults. They get their own personalities, opinions. I call my son an old soul a lot because he's just like too comfortable with the environment already, and he's like expert level deception and like semantics. It is just a lot of stuff that he does. That like why is he doing this at 3? And we have to be very careful of exactly what said it and how it's said. He's not sleeping in a crib anymore. Like he has full reign of the house. So like sometimes we'll hear him getting up pitter pattering around the house like at night. Like, is he out of the bed? Yeah, I'm going potty. Go back to bed. Or he'll come downstairs randomly. So it's just a whole new world and a whole new way we have to move and operate because now he just has full reign in the house and knows where to go. He's not afraid of the dark. He's not afraid to go somewhere that's new. And it's very interesting. It's fun, but it's also like, ugh, now we got to change all this now. So,
so what were like moments that were like epiphanies of this change? Because you said like he has no baby in him anymore. So what, um which is interesting because, especially in terms of masculinity, right? If a kid is, say, 8 or 9 and they get hit by the ball, right? Something,
mhm.
and they'll cry. They'll still
Yeah.
cry, and then we'll be like, stop acting like a baby, right?
Hmm.
Or traditionally, or maybe that's something we might have experienced, or that it was experienced when we were kids. Or it's a familiar scenario that could come to mind for a kid
Yeah, for
to
sure.
happen. Um, so to notice it in the opposite when they're young, and it's like, oh, you're actually not baby anymore. And you said he's not afraid of the dark anymore.
Well,
We can get
yeah,
into
like
that.
for
We can get into
instance,
that
like
secondly, because
yeah,
I was definitely afraid of the dark in a way. We had a basement that was like dungeony.
yeah, oh yeah,
You know what I mean? Like those old
Midwesterners.
basements were like, yeah, no carpet, no, just like brick, not even brick, just cement basement
Hmm.
that had like a water heater that was old and made noise. So you would still be like scared of like
I had that
dark.
exact one. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's funny.
That's Midwest life. So yeah, what were some things where you're like, oh, this isn't a baby anymore?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first one. Like there's a story. So like he's very much like he's very good at like deception and like semantics. It's kind of like me and my wife. Like, we the way we talk and how we articulate. So I was telling him to go to bed. And he's like, okay, I got 5 more minutes. You can watch TV. So I went to my room. He came into the room. He's like, I don't wanna watch TV on my TV. I want to watch on my tablet. I was like, no, you need to go to your room.
Mm.
Your tablet's downstairs. He says, okay, let me check, and I hear pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, and
What
I
was he
hear
checking?
I, again that he's checking
Okay.
on my facts apparently. So he went, and I hear my wife downstairs like, "You're supposed to be in bed." He's like, "No, Daddy told me to come downstairs and get my tablet so I can watch
Mm.
TV." I'm like, "What are you like?" He tries to play us all the time off each other, and my wife and I have many conversations like, "Okay, if he says this, know this." So just his ability to manipulate and understand like how manipulation works is really, really like I don't know if it's advanced or just crazy, but it's just wild. But and then also like I said, Afraid of the Dark, like when he's in his room, he just has like it's like a convertible bed, so he just has like a bar that he can get out of each side. If he needs to go to the bathroom in the night, whatever he can. But like he'll open the door, come downstairs, like he'll walk around, he'll come to our room, like so he understands the environment. He's not afraid that like, oh, I know Daddy's room's this way in the dark, so I can go that way. So it's just kind of just that comfort level with his environment. It's just really fascinating to see like, oh, he'll go do something. Like he'll go downstairs, get his water bottle out of the refrigerator. We'll hear the refrigerator close and he'll pitter patter back upstairs and go watch TV in his room. He knows how to use the
Mm.
remote control. He knows how to find this. Like we just turn on his tablet and he actually goes to like whatever game he wants, to the YouTube, whatever, and he can find it himself. And it's just really funny that that's a skill he has that he just picked up at 3. And it's like, wow, like, oh, we got to be real careful about what we train him and teach him for sure.
Mm. It's interesting because say deception and manipulation,
Yeah.
but those aren't things that he understands,
Not he understands
right?
that how to, yeah, he probably doesn't understand those specific words, but he understands like if mommy says something, he can come to daddy and say it a different way to try to get a different reaction from daddy. And he does that all the time. Like, oh,
Well,
mommy said I
yeah,
can get a
yeah.
lollipop, but
Well,
I'm gonna ask daddy, or mommy said I can't have a lollipop, so I'm gonna go ask daddy if I can have a snack. And then if daddy says yes, I can have a snack, I'll get a lollipop. Like it's
I'm
like that
interested
kind
in
of
that
thing. Yeah.
because that's a pretty, you know, common thing about kids that we know
Yeah.
that's in society, right? That kids like kind of pit parents against each other
Oh yeah.
or kind of as they're learning words and learning what they mean, they're can be very literal when they need to be and very
Mhm.
fantastical when at other times. And
Mhm.
those times can be back to back. It's like
In the same sentence.
daddy said this, mommy said that. So I'm trying to understand. So like for my daughter who is just about 10 months, she was doing solids. Obviously, we're
Yeah.
getting her used to them, but she's still been drinking a lot of milk, still breastfeeding. We were able to breastfeed, which is great.
Yeah.
So we'll sit her in the chair, high chair, right? And with solids, well, we'll give her like today. I'll be real specific.
Yeah.
We gave her some tomato, like quarter of a tomato, right? So a big piece.
Hmm.
Some cheese, mozzarella, like a nice size, similar size cut.
She eating fancy, first of all. You got
Yeah,
Mozzarella
this
tomato
was
salads.
mom was like, I wanted to try a sort of caprese with some
Yeah,
eggs.
right.
So and then we
Exactly.
gave her the eggs. But it's the same with like she had a nectarine, nice big piece last week, and a plum. So
Mhm.
she's trying a lot of different fruits.
Yeah.
Cucumber, just a big old like a rib of cucumber for her hands.
Y'all got
So
good diets in your household.
she can pick up the foods and she's getting used to the texture. But what she'll do, especially the first time she gets something, is she'll pick it up and people on the podcast can't see, but if on YouTube they'll see. She'll put it in her right hand and it just kind of like carries it back and drops it on the side of the high chair to the floor. We put a mat on the floor that we can pick the food up and give it back to her because
Yeah.
we have an old house and an old floor, so it's really, really dirty. Anyway, she drops them on the mat. And the instinct is to be like, she doesn't like it,
Hmm.
that this is her rejecting it. And I'm like, no, that's not what an adult would do. They wouldn't just throw food on the floor they don't like, but we're still reading it from an adult mindset
Hmm.
because I'm like, oh, when we gave her like a plum or some other fruit the first time,
Hmm.
like she'll do that. And I was and so two things came to mind. One was we're giving her big cuts so she can't swallow them and choke, and
Hmm.
she just kind of gnaws on them or sucks on them, whatever they do to get like a little taste, the juice out of
Yeah.
it. But their cuts are so big that sometimes I feel like when she lifts it, the momentum just takes it back and then she drops it because she can kind of barely hold it, right? She
Yeah,
can only
that's
hold it.
true.
She can pick it up with one and then two hands has to hold it. So when she picks it up with one and just goes back, the momentum. So I'm like, I think part of it is accidental, but also like the next day or the next week, if we give her the same food,
Hmm.
she doesn't drop it as much. So I'm like, her throwing it over the side is, we can interpret it as her not liking it. But I was like, I think that's a mistake because this is just part of her baby process of understanding something.
It's just heavy. She's like, this is just too
She's
heavy
just
for me
happy.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
She's giving it too
Because
big portions. Yeah.
because if you put her in her like standing toy thing, the thing that she
Hmm.
stands in that has a
Hmm.
circle, like if I give her a toy that she likes and like we know that she likes it, right? She's played with it off of the thing on the mat or on the bed, even in that standing thing. But sometimes in the standing thing, we give it to her and she'll throw it over the side.
Mm.
So throwing things over the side is not for babies what we interpret it as. It's kind
Yeah.
of like with animals when we personify animals a lot and we're like, they're doing this because of that. And if you could talk to the animal, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Why would I even think
Yeah.
of that kind of, or like if you hit a bee and you're like, that bee's coming for me, it's mad. It's like, no, the bee is not storing anger towards you. You know what I mean? Not the
Yeah.
way that like
Funny.
not the way that like if you smack somebody in the grocery store, they're gonna chase you. It's not like that. So I wonder about the manipulation. And obviously the kid has, it's almost like storytelling. Like the kid has a goal, right? Let's say he
Hmm.
wants an ice cream pop, a popsicle. Let's say he wants a popsicle. And that's his goal. And we know kids can be so ravenous about food.
Hmm.
And it's just like he's just trying to get to the food. You know what I mean?
By any means necessary.
Yeah. And that is a form of, he is being like deceptive and manipulative, but I just wonder how else we could interpret it from a kid's point of view, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, again, I don't know what he's thinking, but it is funny, specifically food too. He had mentioned like he know like he remembers things. Like we went to McDonald's a handful of times. We went to Dunkin' Donuts like once. He knows Starbucks just by like the cups we have. Like we went to Chuck E. Cheese one time. So like that's Chuck E. Cheese. Like it's very funny that like the way they
Mm.
perceive things, they remember things is like I said, very different than how we potentially would do it. But yeah, I have my little Starbucks drink. I don't drink coffee, but I have my little refresher. Every time he has a cup, always equates that to his little like cake pop that we always get him, or we used to always get him. He doesn't eat them anymore, but it's just like a
Mm.
natural thing for him to ask for a cake pop, even though he doesn't eat them. But when he sees my drink or like my mom or my wife's coffee, he always like, I want a cake pop. Like you don't even eat them anymore, but I want one. So it's very much like he just muscle memory repeats what he always has said that he knows he's gotten before, even if he doesn't want it. So there's
Well,
something into it. We need to have a child psychologist on.
the tricky thing is like, I want to say, can when he does that,
Hmm.
if you can ask him what he's thinking, but even that requires a level of interpretation because he's not going to be able to say like, well, Dad, you said this, and I was thinking how much I wanted the popsicle because because
Hmm.
I think you've even mentioned. I mean, you kind of just mentioned it. Like sometimes they want something that they don't really want.
Is used to asking for it, and they like. And sometimes my son will like to ask something just to test to see if he can get it, like to prove he has superiority. I feel like just
Yeah, yeah.
like I told my wife he's our bully. Like he just does things just because he knows he can get it. Like I'm gonna get some French fries today. I know I'm not supposed to, but I'm gonna keep asking him to
Yeah,
cry, and
yeah.
they're
I'm not
going
even
to give
hungry.
in. Yeah, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
even hungry,
I'm not
really.
even hungry. And he will. It is funny. He'll do the thing where he just pours like he does this thing where he throws French fry. He doesn't like French fry tips. He loves French fries, but the tips on either side,
That's the
he just
best,
throws them.
the best
Like
part.
French fry, the hard parts.
That's the
Like
best part.
I thought so too. So
The
well, we
crunchy
we had to
parts.
get him to stop just like he would just literally just throw them at me, at people, like a restaurant every time. Like he does not eat them ever. So anytime he eats French fries, you see tips all around whatever area he's at. So we're like, all right, legend, you have to stop doing that. Like, but I don't like him. So okay, if you don't like it, just put it to the side of your plate. So now he does this thing where, like again, he's a habitual line stepper as well. So like he won't put him on his plate, he'll put him like next to his plate or like in his lap or like
Well,
you put it in my mouth like when I'm trying to eat some food. So it's very funny.
two things. Other so two things. One, to rewind the clock of
Mhm.
Earth. I think when we look back at our childhood or our parents or older cousins, people, 90s, 80s, 70s, these are the things that when dads when it was when dads especially the ones that were around were really like disciplinarian.
Mhm.
You got to imagine that a lot of that came from like this age
Oh
and
yeah.
kind of maybe not as a kid, like you said, he's not a baby anymore. So as the kids feel more like just like kids,
Hmm.
your tolerance probably drops for some of their behavior.
Because he knows enough about what he's doing. Like he's gonna like. There's nothing that we do now that I don't think he'll forget. Like he's gonna remember all. These are all memory creating moments now. Like there's
Right.
nothing he's just like he's a baby. He's not gonna remember the same way. Like everything we do, every conversation, not every but the conversations, the promises, the snacks, the things he gets away with, he'll remember when he's 4, 5, 6 and moving forward. So I think that's a great point. Like this is where you have to kind of start to like, okay, I got to put my foot down now because if not, by the time he's 6 or 7 and he can do some real damage, it might be too late. So that's actually a really good point because yeah, we do find ourselves like, okay, don't do that, legend. Like not yelling at him, but raising our voice like, hey, stop that, don't do that. Like he fell on the stairs for the first time ever, like last week because he was running after me because he didn't want to get his hair done. My wife was trying to do his hair upstairs. And I was walking downstairs, so he ran after me and like fell and tumbled. And we're like, listen, stop that. And you're like, oh wait, that's the first time I actually like raised my voice at him. Like, but he needed that because he's about to fall and break his head. So you
Mhm.
start to realize, okay, I got to start to have some boundaries and some expectations in the house because if not, he's gonna do whatever and actually hurt himself because he has skills, but not as coordinated as he probably should be.
Well, so I think in the past, when that tolerance lowered, that's when whoopings, as we call them, happened, right?
Don't get to switch.
Or like that's when they started. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, you're not a baby anymore. You know what you're doing, and you start to take the things they're doing personally,
Hmm.
whether you intend to or not.
Yeah.
because you know that there is a level of communication there that is higher than the but to that. And I think when we had Jay, my buddy Jay on, Jay New,
Hmm. Oh yeah.
and he
Shout out
talked
to
about how like his kid who was like 5 or 6 now,
hmm
still he told a story about he recognized one time of like that their reaction time isn't
hmm
like ours, like an
Yeah.
adult would be or like a teenage you would expect, but they act so human, for lack of a better description,
Yeah.
right? So I guess it's like, okay, your son specifically is over 3, just over 3,
hmm
and but it's important that he is still basically moving almost completely on impulse.
Yeah.
He still
All the
has
time.
almost no interiority. Like
Yeah.
he's not, I mean, he's thinking, but he's not sitting around like contemplating
If I do this, then this will happen.
existence. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
There's no cause and effect.
There's not a lot of cause and effect, you know? And he's still like, I'm assuming he still cries.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's still like all the time for just random things. That's just normal. But yeah,
Right. For random things. That is
random
not
things.
something
Yeah.
you do after 11 years. You know what I mean? I don't know, a certain age.
Right now, I just want to start bust out crying.
So I guess in terms of like the things they do and how to receive these actions that may be frustrating,
Yeah. And I think a
how,
part of it
like
is also. Oh, go ahead. Finish it.
just are, what are other ways to take in their behavior that can maybe put a new perspective on it as a parent
Hmm.
that can open up new tactics for dealing with it.
Yeah.
That's
I
what I'm
think
curious about.
Yeah, I think part of that, and I actually just was thinking about this as you were talking, is like because so a lot of things that he does, and I'm sure kids in general at this age are still mimicking the parents, like so,
Oh
but
yes.
they just don't have the functional skills or the cause and effect rationality. Like, well, my feet are, or my legs are 6 inches shorter than my dad, so I can't jump up 2 stairs. I'm gonna try, I'm gonna bust my face. So I think he's still trying to keep up with us because he very much hates to be left out. Like every conversation, every place we go, no matter what it is, he wants to be there. He wants to help. I mean, he wants to do it like he's an adult, like a person. And it's funny because we'll have conversations with him like he's a person. Like for instance, sometimes he's very helpful. Like I like Legend go upstairs, can you grab mommy's phone and daddy's water, and he'll get up, run up, come back, mommy's phone, daddy's water, and he's just so proud that he accomplished that goal with no help. So I think it's still him trying to figure out his limitations versus what he sees us doing, and I think that's a big one because yeah, he tries to do everything. I told him to go upstairs the other day to get him a shirt and some shorts for us to put on so we can go to the store. And he came back with a matching shirt and short set. And I got socks too, Daddy. I got socks too. I was like, oh, good job, buddy. He's like, I even told him to get socks. But it's just funny. Like he very much wants to be part of the crew, even though he might not actually have all the skills to do it, but he's gonna try. And sometimes that's what
So
that's what hurts.